Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Natalia and this is Little Mountain Homestead. Today I am going to show you how I prepare a super easy vegetable broth at home. And this is totally beginner friendly. The only tricky part in this recipe is that you have to save up food scraps before you can make it. So I'm going to show you kind of what food scraps I use, how much scrap I use, some of the seasonings that I put into my vegetable broth, and I'm just gonna walk you through the process. I like making homemade vegetable broth because I know everything that goes into it. I can control the sodium content, for example. I don't have any leftover waste like the boxes that I have to recycle, and it's free, or almost free essentially, because I'm using food scraps. Hi Mew, that's one of our kitties, Mew. She wants some more food. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive right in. All you're going to need for this recipe is, Mew, I know, I'm gonna feed you in a minute, a large pot that you can simmer the broth in. Of course, you're going to need leftover food scraps, or you can use fresh ones if you have those on hand and you prefer to do that. And then of course seasonings as well. And I just kind of use what I have on hand, and I'll walk you through all the seasonings that I'm using today. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're just starting off with a nice big pot. This is the biggest one that I have. I would just suggest using the largest one you have so that you can make the most veggie broth in one go. And these are a few bags of scrap. I have been saving these up for probably 2 weeks, and I'll kind of show you some of what's in here. We have bell pepper. We have, these are broccoli stems. We have carrot, of course. What else is in here? So that's all that's in that one. Over in this one, it's looking like we've got a lot of celery, got some tomato in here, some onion skins. Some people do not put onion and garlic skins in their vegetable broth, but I do. I have had no problem with it. So I do have some skins in here. We have some green onion. What else? Tomato. Yeah, so celery, tomato, green onion, and maybe some garlic as well. And then in this one we have some more green onion and yellow onion, bay leaves, and I think this is some old cilantro that I had. And when you're deciding what food scraps to save, of course you only want to save healthy food scraps, nothing that has really like gone bad. So the food scraps that I save are leftovers from meals that I make, or they are scraps that I know I'm not gonna use, and I freeze them before they have a chance to go bad. So that's important to note. All right. Okay, so we have all of our scraps here, and the next step is to fill this full of water. Okay, I've got all my goods here. I have filled it with water, and I've left just enough space for it to simmer so that it doesn't like simmer over. Now I'm going to show you some of the seasonings that I use in here, and you don't need to go out and buy any of these. It's really about what you have on hand. I use nutritional yeast in most of my recipes, so I always put some nutritional yeast in here, and I don't measure anything out. I just kind of put in a generous amount. Got some black pepper, sweet basil leaf, sprinkle of that. Here we have thyme and parsley. And here I just have a jar of sea salt. So I'm gonna put, let's see, I'm gonna start with 1 teaspoon of salt, and then I can salt to taste later. And then I really like cooking with bay leaves. They give the broth or any soups that I'm making a really lovely flavor. So I'm gonna throw a couple of these in there as well. Stir this up a bit now. Okay, and now I'm going to pop it on the stove and get this to boil. Alrighty. Okay, so I just put it on the stove. What I'm gonna do is bring it to a gentle boil, and then I'm gonna reduce the heat and simmer it for probably 45 minutes to an hour. And at that point, if you are pressed for time and need to use your broth, you could strain everything out and just use it right away. But what I do is once I have simmered it, I turn off the heat, let it cool, and I'm actually going to put it in the fridge with everything in it, and I'm gonna leave it in there overnight so it gets a really full, rich flavor. And then tomorrow I will come back and strain everything out of it and put it in jars, and it'll be ready and good to go. I will show you tomorrow what it looks like when I pull it out of the fridge, how I strain it, and then I'm just gonna put it in some jars and I keep it in the fridge. So this is a super simple recipe. Like I said, you can control the salt content. Some of the vegetable broth, like store-bought vegetable broth, is super, super salty or has no salt in it. There's not really a good medium there. So that's one of the reasons I like to make my own. Plus it just it gives me confidence and makes me feel good knowing that I have these types of recipes in my toolbox in a way, and that I can make these for myself, for my husband, and make delicious, healthy homemade meals with stock, with broth that I have prepared at home. So I really love that. It makes me feel good. And I am constantly, you know, I'm on this journey of learning how to do more for myself, learning how to be more self-reliant, you know, not only independently, but we as a family are working on that as well. And this has been something that I've had a really good time learning and kind of tweaking and honing this recipe. So that is all for now, and I am going to be back here with you tomorrow to show you what it looks like when it's done and how I strain it out and store it in the fridge. All right, time to go feed Mew. All right, hello, it is the next day and I am back and ready to finish up with my vegetable broth. So I brought it to a boil yesterday, simmered it for about an hour. I let it cool and then I put it in the fridge to sit overnight. Now I have gotten everything out. You can see everything over here. I'm going to strain out all of the scrap. I'm going to keep that scrap to later put it in my compost pile. And I want to do a video on the state of my compost pile as well. That'll be a totally separate video. And then I will be able to store my vegetable broth in those little glass jars over there. So let's go ahead and get to it. So to strain my broth, I actually use a salad spinner. It works really well for me, but of course you can use whatever is easiest for you. All right, start by doing that. And then this is my bowl that goes out to the compost. So these scraps will be used yet again. What I like about using this salad spinner is that it has this little lip on it and it makes it really easy to pour into my jars without spilling everywhere. And these jars, I didn't purchase these new. This one still has kind of some stickiness from a label that I need to get off, but this was a pickle jar and this was an iced tea jar, I think. So I just saved these up. All right, so as you can see, that one batch of vegetable broth yielded almost 4 full jars of veggie broth. Now, if I didn't have plans to use it, I could freeze that as long, you know, I could put it, for example, in an ice cube tray, and I could freeze it and then pop those out of the ice cube tray and save them, or perhaps just leave space in a jar and save it in the freezer. But I do have plans for this broth this week. I'm going to be making a vegan potato soup, and I use a base of vegetable broth and soy milk to make that. So I do have plans for this. I'm guessing most, no, I don't think I'll use all of it. I might end up using about half of that, but I use vegetable broth all the time in a lot of my recipes. So the fact that I now know how to make it at home is just wonderful because, again, it's homemade. I know everything that's in it. I can control what it tastes like, and I can save a little bit of money, and I don't have to throw out or recycle any packaging. So it is a win-win all around. If you have any questions about how to make your own vegetable broth, you can feel free to leave those down below. I think I will be back soon with another recipe video. I absolutely love cooking. It's one of my newfound passions over the past couple of years, so I do want to share a bit more cooking content. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.